Hi everyone, welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, Christmas is just a week away, and everyone seems to be putting together their final preparations. I have to say again that Christmas really isn't what it used to be, and there will be many British people here who will be a bit lost because either family will have gone, moved on, passed away, or perhaps because of some bickering, some arguing, that they won't get to see their families this year. So Christmas is not always something special for all British people, but most of us try to make an effort to do something nice, at least for somebody else. I've been looking at the headlines for 1987, and we're going to be looking through some of those just to remind ourselves what life was like in the past. And there's a few surprising ones here about 1987. Apparently, the hit record was the Pet Shop Boys singing "You Were Always on My Mind." The bill for the top 5 most wanted Christmas gifts that year came to only £35 compared to today, when the average family will spend £1,600. It's showing me what people used to buy each other in 1987. I don't recognize any of these things, strangely. It's just little toys, I think. Nothing major. And let's look at the headlines from December 1987. Well, they started work building the Channel Tunnel. That's the tunnel that goes under the sea between Britain and France. There were big arguments between Margaret Thatcher and the French president or prime minister about who was going to pay for it. And they finally started to construct it, to build it in 1987. It was opened in 1994, I think. So that was a big deal in 1987. What else? Oh yeah, I was 16 in 1987. I remember that much. There's a whole list of them here. Of course, the ferry disaster. Yes, there was a ferry sank between Britain and Belgium. It was called the Zeebrugge disaster. And in the same way as we have songs like We Are the World, Do They Know It's Christmas, they released one called Let It Be. I think that was Paul McCartney's project, wasn't it? That was a big thing in 1987. One of our government officials said that Christian people don't get AIDS. Dear, what a horrible thing to say. She said that around 1987 as well. AIDS, of course, the deadly disease which is caused by the HIV virus. So that caused a big controversy even back then. November 1987, a fire at London's King's Cross station killed 31 people. Oh, really sad, very sad. The government announced a new tax. Oh, yes, that wasn't popular. The community tax. Also, in 1987, the British government announced that eye tests would no longer be free, that British people would have to pay for them. And of course, in the mid-1990s, the Scottish government reversed that. So if you live in Scotland now, you get free eye tests. If you live in England, you don't. I think you have to pay about £20, which reminds me, I have an eye test this coming Friday as part of my diabetes treatment. So that'll be coming up at the end of the week for me. Let's see. Oh, Kylie Minogue, I Should Be So Lucky. She was 19. Oh, really? Oh, she's only a few years older than me. And she was in a famous TV show here called Neighbours, which was an Australian daily drama. And she went on to have a hit record, I Should Be So Lucky. I'm sure you would know it. Yeah, these are all from 1987. Oh, very interesting, isn't it? I wonder what you were doing in 1987. As I remember, it was a good year, at least I thought so. But then again, we didn't really have global news. We weren't all hooked up to the internet, were we, in the 80s? And those of us who had home computers, it was only little games we played. We weren't hooked up to each other. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was telling me that his first job, which was in 1987, was in a newsroom in a radio station. And what I remember about that newsroom, because I used to visit it with him, was that they had these big terminals that used to spew out. To spew out means to throw out, to print out. To produce is to spew out. It used to spew out huge amounts of paper. It was paper which was perforated. It was all joined together. And once it stopped printing, you could tear off the perforation, fold up what it's printed, and run it to the newsroom. Let me just explain that again. So they had these terminals in this radio station, and it used to print off the terminals, they used to print off these huge amounts of paper. I mean, it was such a waste looking back. The paper was perforated, which means you could tear it easily. You could tear it on the perforation. Once it stopped printing a story, you had to quickly take it and run it up to the newsroom. When I say run it up, you had to take it and run with it to the newsroom. So you basically took it from the computer and you would run with this very important news story to the newsroom so they could then read it live on the radio. What a waste of paper. Yeah, it was quite common in those days for banks as well. I remember they had these huge amounts of printed paper, and they had these massive terminals that would print them very, very loudly. They made a kind of screeching noise. And once they finished printing, you would tear them off along the perforation and you would pass them to where they had to go. It's kind of like forwarding an email, but in those days, it was actually printed and you had to physically go. So yes, it's a memory from a friend of mine working in a newsroom in a radio station, waiting for the news story to print off, being sent by a news agency, and then having to run it, having to take it to the newsroom, to run it up to the newsroom. Yes, very interesting. I remember those days. The Christmas movie from 1987 was A Muppet Family Christmas. Oh, I love the Muppets. In fact, one of my little joys every year is to watch the Muppets in Oz. It's a Muppet version of The Wizard of Oz, which is a famous Christmas movie, as you know. Not about Christmas, it's just one of these movies they always show at Christmas time. The Muppets of Oz is the same story about a little girl who goes over the rainbow wearing the red shoes. I think the original was Judy Garland, and the Muppets do their version with the American R&B singer Ashanti. Well, she must be quite old now, Ashanti. I'm sure I haven't heard of her in a while. Ashanti was an actress. She was a black singer actress from the 1980s, and in the Muppets version of the Muppets of Oz, she was playing the main character, Judy. Yeah, I liked Ashante. Haven't heard about her for ages. I almost said I haven't heard from her, but well, I wouldn't hear from her because I don't know her personally. What else was around in 1987? Let's have a look and see what else was happening at Christmas time. Right, Christmas morning. I'm looking at the TV schedule here. Oh yes, we used to have a TV show every year by Noel Edmonds, which was called Christmas Morning with Noel. And they used to broadcast that from the Telecom Tower in London. I don't know if you remember the Telecom Tower. It's still there. It's a large cylinder type object. I'm sure I've made many podcasts about this before. It was the hub for our telephony system here in the UK. It used to be covered in satellite dishes and looked very high tech. Most countries in the world have at least one, I think. I'm sure you have a broadcasting tower of some kind. And it has a rotating restaurant on the top. Well, actually, they're currently in the process of converting it into a hotel, aren't they? Because they no longer use it. But Christmas Morning with Noel was an amazing TV show. And it was transmitted live through all of our ex-colonies, Australia, New Zealand, even Singapore and Gibraltar, as well as the rest of the English-speaking world. He was in a helicopter and he used to fly to other countries to reunite loved ones and families. So Christmas Morning with Noel was always good. In 1987, the Christmas morning service, they had a lot of religious Christmas services in the morning of 1987. I'd forgotten about that because we don't have those anymore. And they were showing Porridge most of the day. Porridge is an old British TV comedy. Julie Andrews, The Sound of Christmas. This was Julie Andrews, the actress. She had special guests, and she went to Salzburg in Austria because, of course, she made that movie there, didn't she? The Sound of Music. So she was always very famous at Christmas time because The Sound of Music is another popular Christmas movie. I'm sure you know that one. It lasts for hours. And she had her special guests, John Denver, Placido Domingo, amongst others, sitting with her. Then there was a Top of the Pops Christmas party with lots of recorded pop songs. The Queen gave her speech at 3:00. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was one of the movies from 1987. Lots of comedy shows in the evening as well. Well, I don't think TV looks anything like this now. Yes, and only one news bulletin on Christmas Day. And they were reading from the Bible at midnight. Wow. Changed days. I don't think they do that anymore. So that was Christmas 1987. Now, I have to say, I have my Christmas viewing sorted. When you live with the family, you have to sit down and discuss what you will watch over Christmas. So that was an uncomfortable conversation. But we finally agreed that over Christmas, on Christmas Day, we're going to be watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're just going to have back-to-back Buffy. And we will also watch Alien, all of the movies. So there'll be no Christmas movies for me. I'll be watching Buffy and Alien. That'll be my Christmas Day. And of course, I'll be cooking as well, so that'll keep me busy. I do like a bit of Buffy, though, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So yeah, that'll be very nice. And of course, there's also the Christmas specials. I've already started watching Are You Being Served Christmas special, the Carpenters Christmas special from the 1970s. I really want to catch up with Julie Andrews, the Christmas special I mentioned there. If I can find that on YouTube, I'm going to put her on my list. And that's it. Yeah. So for me, cooking and watching TV will be the highlight of the day. All my shopping's done. I won't tell you what I bought everyone, but last year, as you know, the Christmas presents I had to buy, I bought everyone those little Apple discs that they can put in their wallet so that if they lose their wallet, they can find it easily by using those little Apple trackers. So that was last year's featured gift from Teacher Joseph. This year, there's a few things I'm giving to people. There's some art that I've created throughout the year. So I have a few paintings lying around. So some people will get those as Christmas gifts. Other people will get boxes of chocolates because I can't eat them. So I'll be giving them away, the chocolate that I get. What else will I be giving? Oh, yeah. Tarot cards. That's another feature of my Christmas gifts this year that I'll be giving to people. Yeah, and I think those are the main kinds of gifts. Yeah, I'm really trying to stay away from sugar, so I'll be passing sugar on if I'm giving any gifts or biscuits. I don't want to leave them in the house. I'll simply give them to people. I'll need to go to the pharmacy, the doctor, some of my local shops. I like to give them boxes of chocolates just to say thank you for their help during the year. Yeah, the optician as well. I'll probably give him chocolates, although most of these people are either Muslim or of other religious faiths where they don't celebrate Christmas, but still, it's nice to be kind. If I give them chocolates, they won't refuse. So I'll be giving my gifts next week, I think, to some of the local shops and businesses that I like. So I'll be doing that just to say thank you to everyone who's been helping me this year. Yeah, I suppose really I should give some chocolates to the vet as well. That's the vet of my little cat, but they're huge. Those vets are huge. I've never seen women so big. They're massive, honestly. So I don't think I should give them biscuits. I think I should give them something else. I need to think about that because they really are grossly overweight. Of course, I would never say anything, being the British man that I am, always being very polite. But yeah, I shouldn't enable them if they're having issues with eating. And that's the thing here. People really do eat too much because we live in a culture now where we don't move, but we certainly eat. Well, that's it from me right now. So I guess I better go and get ready to face the day. So enjoy your day, whatever you're doing. See you. Bye.